just would like to first thank everybody for tuning in. I'm just so grateful, so thankful, and so just sometimes overwhelmed by the amount of support I get just from the general audience that shows up every single day. We have a nice group of core members that we're definitely building something together. Would you look at that? I got an alert that I'm live. That is great news. Thank you to the 21 of you who've already hit that like button that forced YouTube to push this around, it seems. Thank you so much. Let me just say hi to you real quick. Rob Clement, Dan Margino, thanks for being in Tom's Zone for 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. Mrs. Stott, thank you so much. Mr. Stott, and 3+ months with the XRP Meteor along with XRP John Hall. We've got Crypto Cooter and Defined, very trusted mods in here as well. And in Tom's Army, both of them respectively for 6+ months with the XRP Predictor. Jay Mix and Rob Clement are in here. I love seeing you guys. Defined said, hey everyone, hit that like on the way in. Consider subscribing and joining Tom's Army for the best technical analysis on YouTube. Every day you are not in the Telegram, you are missing out. Why wait? And there's some exciting stuff that'll be starting next week as far as live classes. And they may end up being... they're going to be several times a week, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. As long as somebody is paying for the classes in that category, I'm going to dedicate to doing lives specifically, and it's not even a live like you see right here, but live classes specifically for that category. It'll be hidden for everybody else, but I decided to keep it all on YouTube, and it's an advancement. So I got approved for the category. I'm just making sure that they allow me to put that kind of content on. You have to wait 72 hours so that they can deem that it's spam or not. So by tonight, I'm hopeful that I get that acceptance fully, and then by Monday or Tuesday, depending on the day we pick, I'll be doing those live classes. So it'll start out probably pretty small, but because it's on YouTube, we can have an ever-growing database, and that means people can join at will, but it's going to be upon them to go back in time to check out the prior classes to catch up, and we can run it and fly in unison. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the prospect of XRP. I understand the price has remained stagnant, but Ripple did just secure last night or yesterday the UK FCA license, and we'll go over that. We talked about it a little bit in the live yesterday, but only one of my lives posted from yesterday. The vertical live posted, but the horizontal live has disappeared. So I'm not sure what happened there. Some of my lives from 2 days ago just posted earlier, so... you know, I got to separate the horizontal from vertical lives. Can't do them back to back. So maybe if I do a horizontal in the morning or I do a vertical in the morning, I do a horizontal at night. But it's definitely shadow banning my own content. So I got to be careful about that. But other than that, it's been a spectacular start to the, I mean, maybe not with price appreciation, but it's been a nice start to the new year. I think from our own our commodity and our common bond here and what we try to push forward for. And you'll notice it's going to be increasingly difficult to get more and more people to, in unison, to want to talk about crypto, to find that aspiration in crypto, because we've been finding a lot of price depreciation lately. And when you have risk assets and risk off, it's okay. A lot of people, you know, we get thrown off because when you look at the other side of the aisle, you got gold closing over 4,500. You've got silver closing just below $80. You've got some of the mining stocks pushing, but there's a couple of them that I continue to watch. And let me rephrase yesterday because I went back and watched, but the video wasn't there. But I remember I was talking about B2 Gold. I don't currently have 10,000 shares. I have to acquire up to that many shares if I decide to do it. Right now I've got about 3,400, as you guys know. Well, maybe not because I've grown it a little bit. But if it came down, I just wanted to start out with this so there's no confusion. If B2 Gold comes down and this ends up being a fake out and it tops out for whatever reason, and it comes down and back tests $3.39, that would be my area where I would look to expand very deeply. That's my expansion area. Right now it's the hold. We wait to see if it goes higher. We did a great job buying it long ago, and then we'll just keep appreciating into it if it allows us. A few of them were back testing major breakouts, and I only want to talk about it real quickly because I've seen a lot of talk in the Telegram. The major breakouts where B2 Gold is up there, but you have a major breakout back testing on Fortuna Silver Mines in particular. It's a multi-year consolidation. Now, the only question we ask ourselves, are we early right now or is this the breakout? If this is the breakout, it's starting to move, and I know it seems crazy, up to $71 in the future. And that is where it's going. I have zero question about it. I don't know how long it's going to take. But in this is an ascending triangle. It might be confused with an ascending wedge. But the key point here is you've got a stationary resistance. You've got an uptrending support. That is classic signs of an ascending triangle. Now, if it was an ascending wedge or a bearish reversal style pattern, you would more than likely have downtrending resistance and uptrending support creating the wedge. This is a standard prototypical ascending triangle, and it's defined by having the stationary resistance or a stationary support while having downtrending resistance. And then if you have the stationary resistance, you have uptrending support. That's how it's classified as an ascending triangle. So to me, this looks like a tailor-made pattern formation. The only question we have to wait is for this validation, which we might have gotten this week. As long as it holds $9.70 area, which is the sweet spot right now for a buy, you can avoid coming all the way back down and retesting the uptrend, which could bring you all the way as low if we wanted to do it again out here and into the first quarter to 450, but you have a stationary support at 730 that could hold. So that is the potential breakout there. And then with Bolivar and silver, same deal. You've got a multi-decade, not just multi-year, you've got multi-decade. Well, not multi-decade, I guess. Let's not overdo it. But you've got a very long consolidation. And this is another one where you've got a pretty universal resistance. Yes, it's come up a little bit from here, 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 and here. But it's pretty much you're hitting the same spot. It's not a very uptrending. It looks like an ascending triangle here as well. You got uptrending resistance. You've got the downtrending support. And because we have the evidence, this should be like this, though. That's a stationary resistance. This support is actually very volatile, so you come up like this. It creates that ascending triangle because we have the history. So this is breaking out as well. So just like with Fortuna Silver Mines, you've got the possibility of, if it does want to back test, where I would expand into this, and I don't have, my goal is to get up to 5,000 shares. I'm only 25 or 28% of the way there. But if it were to back test at 338, that's where I would make that big move. And I do see a scenario where gold, silver gets this volatile back test because they are multi-decade in some cases breakouts. And the miners, it's not unusual to back test it. So I just wanted to start there so there was no confusion. And I apologize if there was some confusion, and I know there was. I wish I could have went into the comment section of the video, but for some reason that live's not there this morning. My vertical one posted, but I guess it's a good thing because now it's not overcrowded. But Jesus, it gets a little strange. So apologies. Let's get back into crypto. So we'll deep dive into this, but let me do the intro. So what we'll talk about here is XRP. We'll talk about the UK FCA licensing. We'll talk about the possibilities of how we can get out of this mess and stop being so stagnant and break up. Or if we can't break out of this downward consolidation, exactly where this price action is angled to go as we head into a new trading week. Tomorrow, the weekly candle will close at about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have one big daily candle today to see if we can get any kind of reversal, and then we'll go from there. Good morning. 11:28 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Saturday, January 10th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. I still have a lot of faith in this community. And I'm not talking about the community within XRP Future Millionaire. I'm talking about the XRP community that eventually most people will get it right. They will see the light of day and stop listening to the hopium, stop listening to the ones that are, tugging at your heartstrings, and allow yourself to appreciate the journey with XRP as I have, as many of you have before. I know I don't have my hat on today, but that's because I want to try to do a unified approach real quick. XRP, what gets lost in the narrative is, okay, it's not appreciation like we want. The XRP price is always sitting in the same area. But the good thing about this is that we've been doing this since March 24th of 2021. That's over, 1,800 days in a row we've done this. So we honestly have been able to watch the price. And we are the foremost experts, not just me, but the ones in here who come back every single day, and you know who you are. You're starting to see those names in the chat. Even in the most bearish of times, we struggle to have under 100 people as the live gets going on. Today we have 73. But I have no doubt in my mind that as this live continues on, we'll get over 100. We'll have plenty of people in here, and I think we have enough people in here already. But it's this time where if we just acknowledge what is happening in front of us, we can stay grounded, we can stay centered. And the most important thing when you're investing in an asset, which I believe XRP is an asset because it's utility driven, they're starting their Ripple bank. They got Selexia. They've got a lot of different things. They've got the G Treasury. So they're not only doing it from a means of, okay, we've got the cryptocurrency. They've got the Canary Capital XRP ETF, the XRPC. We've got the acquisition companies that have, you know, XRPN, XRPNW, and XRPNU. So we're starting to build this treasury. We'll have bond yields that will be paid soon this year. And that's through, I believe, XRPN. Which one is that? XRPNU? No, XRPNW would be the warrants. So at some point, that's going to pay out a bond yield as well. So we're trying to do this all XRP. So what we're trying to focus on is we want to be the main investors, even though a lot of people give us crap, even though a lot of people act like we don't know what we're talking about. We tried to give them the capital and investment, and some people think this logic and philosophy is dumb, but this is my same philosophy with the miners and the gold and everything else I invest in. The emerging markets, we're giving them the capital to build the utility for what we're going to be rewarded for later. Right now, it's just paper. Right now, it's just a paper process. We bought in, you know, if you bought in with our philosophy, and I'll just maintain it like this. Our goal was 10,000 tokens when we were sub 50 cents. Fortunately, if you were buying in with me and my audience, or you were part of the truck, you're under 50 cents. Me personally, I bought it at 34 cents, and that's my average here. And the whole goal is so that we can watch the price appreciate, contract, do what it needs to do from a price of safety, a standpoint of safety. So now we can watch the appreciation in the process going forward. Now, one of the issues for XRP holders, and it's so true, you'll notice how quickly people will come in or how just the mindset people have calling it trash and stuff, but you want to hear that. That's a honest rendition from people in the audience, and you need to hear that. You need to hear how people honestly think of XRP. So what you want to do, though, is you want to look at this as it's 2026. We're at $2.09. When we bought this in 2023, we were at 34 cents. So yes, I understand it's not at $10. I understand it was up and it hit all-time highs again, and then it backtraced, which it needed to. We've been talking about for over 2 years, once we made everybody whole up at the all-time high, that we would have a 50 to 75% correction, and it would be how we dealt with it at those moments, if we're really going to ride this out or not. And what ended up happening here is a lot of people got smacked in the face, mostly the ones who weren't invested in XRP on the downturn in the bear market, but got all excited in the bull market. What ends up happening is you get a lot of different influencers that aren't here at the time, but they show up right when things are starting to top out because everybody gets excited. They find it an easy topic of discussion. And for me, too, it's phenomenal. Because being here and a voice that's here every day, people find it easier to come in and watch me when we're in the high times of volatility, the up direction, because they'll look back at the content and say, man, this guy's been here a while. And they come in here and then this gets overrun with 7. We get 700 people during the lives when we're in a big bull market. It's just when it gets into the bearish cycle, when we really can make all the money, most people disappear. That's why I always say, look to the left, look to the right. The 82 people that are here this morning, despite the volatility in the down direction, but are continuing on that path, these are the people you want to talk to when we get into that high volatile moment. So that's basically how I would start this. Now we can get into the chart. So we need to stay the course. And yes, am I interested in buying XRP at $2.09? Absolutely not. But have I given up on the prospect of where I know in my heart we're going in time? No, because this is part of the plan. This is why we wanted to buy it cheap and not be stuck in the perpetual loop of, you know, we're having all of this down and we're a part of this whole down. No, at least we're a part of the up. But now what we need to acknowledge is that when you look at this, we're getting rejected. And if this breaks down, the next area And I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but if we don't hold this philosophy like this, what ends up happening here is now we have to come down to $1.79, or I mean $1.99.7 first. And that is the CME gap that was from last Friday. Not this past Friday that just passed, but the Friday before. So that would be what, January 2nd? Yeah, January 2nd. We closed at $1.99.7. Then we had that volatile spike up, but we left that gap. So the obvious here would be if we can't hold some kind of reversal, you'd come first down to $1.99.7. Then you'd come down to the, then you would come down to the breakout or breakdown of that falling wedge. So that would be your optic here. You'd have to come down to the falling wedge if we can't maintain this. Now, initially, it looks like we're breaking down. There's no doubt about it. So that's why this is such a decisive candle right now. In today's daily, if we're actually going to break down and finish this, which right now we haven't shown any steam to the upside, I'm not afraid of acknowledging the charts. I understand I don't get as many viewers when we're talking about, because we're not talking about parabolic spikes, but we have to be honest with ourselves so we can see what's coming. We haven't broken down just yet. We haven't had that sell volume just yet. And in the 2-hourly, there is a chance, but we are breaking bearish on the stochastic. We just need some kind of momentous push here before we continue this breakdown. But if we can't get over that 210, it's a painful area of resistance. You know, it's a painful area of resistance. And then if it ends up fully not cooperating with us and we lose that support at the CME gap, let's just say we break down. Then we got to back test the falling wedge, which is completely normal. It did not break bearish if this happens. In fact, if it holds this, you've got a lot of volatility. But the reason I always say I don't want to come back down here is because now you've turned a lot of momentum back in to a very volatile landscape. And a lot of people, you know, so I see a lot of people answering the question. Yep, you're right, Nick. Thanks for saying that. So a triangle as a flat side wedge isn't flat. That's the best way to put it. That's why I was trying to say like a flat resistance or a flat support. And then if you have a flat support, you have a downtrending resistance to finish the triangle. But in a wedge, you would have like the uptrending, basically like this. So you don't need uptrending, but see how this is a falling wedge? So now in a falling wedge, so here, this is a perfect way to show everybody. So in XRP, and Nick, I appreciate you going above and beyond and trying to explain this. Because it is tricky, and that's the importance of classes too. It's simple things. It's simple distinctions, because a lot of people confuse a wedge with, like some people will call this a falling triangle or a descending triangle, which it's not. You have this down, and this is way too high because of this update. You guys are really going to have to pay attention to your charts when you look at this update. It is horrendous. It is horrendous. I'll just keep it like this, but it is so bad right now. And this is the optic we have on the other chart. This is why I have the other chart sitting up there as well. But this would be, you could technically say, you are pushing some kind of support here if you look at it like that. This is why this area is so important. Because you can look at these charts in many different ways. Where's this other one? Oh, I already had this one set up like this. Except I put it up too high. Interesting. Don't worry, T, I can move. Guys, I'm going to move my tablet so my son can come out here. Hi. Where did I put my... You're okay, TT. So that's that little channel that we could be in. Let me go back to where we had it almost created like a wedge. Because I have them both out there for a reason, so we can look at it both ways. So when you look at it in the wedge perspective, you take out that wick up here. You just come through the body. That's how you get the wedge. Something like that. So And the difference is you see how you got this downtrending resistance, you got the downtrending support, which creates that little wedge. It creates that base of the wedge. But if we were to have it flat, so basically if it looked like this going across, and you just kept having this flat resistance, but it would have to be the support because the downtrending resistance would pull into it. So let's just say this came across more like this, then you'd have a descending triangle. If you just had this, it can be, okay, so it's not always exactly stationary. It can be a little inverted or a little, downward. But, that's just the way you have to look at this. And there's nothing wrong with it. And I even put this little support down here to where I guess you could see on the bottom where you've got stationary support down there. So that part of it, I suppose, if you want. But that's just the big difference. And it's very complicating. If you don't understand charts, it all looks so similar. That's why a lot of times I'll see a lot of people that talk about the wedges and the triangles. It's like they're so similar, but yet so different. One of the most difficult things. I agree, Nick. I think we could bottom here as well. I've been talking about it for days. As long as we don't give up this area, this would be a unique bullish reversal. And I like what Nick posted in the Telegram. And you guys all need to be in the Telegram. You all need to be in the Telegram if you're in Tom's Army. Like, don't skip out on the Telegram. We're at 499 members. For the first time ever, we're about to push 500 members. Not all 500 people are in Tom's Army. About 45% are. Which I wish more people would pay it forward. But hey, I can't control what everybody else does. But Nick put this in as well, and it's beautiful. Because I agree with this. This is what I've been targeting all week. Especially if we can hold. That's why I keep putting such emphasis on the 210 area. We could expand down to 206 or 207. But it has to be wickish, like Nick showed. That's a wick up, wick back up. There's a lot of wicks. And if I save this, I'm not stealing your stuff, Nick, I promise. But if I do it like this and I copy this, I can actually write on this. So let me copy this. And now I can write on it. Whoops. Let me go into my gallery. Because Nick has done a phenomenal job here, showing how we really could reverse. And then we've got to get through that FVG over the top. And that's why that 214 all the way extending to 217, we continuously talk about. Nick nailed it a couple days ago. Came on here and he talked about how we really needed a close. Yes, 210 or 212 is fine, but he talked about, I believe it was Wednesday, that we really needed a close over $2.14 to solidify some of this movement. And it's so true. Look where this FVG is at up here. And then you've really got to be over 217 to clear that FVG up around, let's see. That's right around 215, 3/4, 216 area. But he's so right, because if we can't simply clear out the defined area where we're not, we got to get past here. And we have a chance. Like, we have a chance. The fact that we wick down, pulled up. Wick down, pulled up. And we did not come past that very, very volatile but very big support area. And then we pulled back up, and then now we got to stay above 210, which we're working on right now. You clear that, and we cleared out this very small area there as well that had a little gap, and Nick covered it. Now if we can work our way back up, you do this, you can stay the back test, and if we can get through this area, it offers a unique liquidity zone around $2.28. I suppose I should say 224 to 228, but there's a very strategic level up there that it allows for. So we could walk ourselves into a very, very unique situation this weekend, where we could get some upward volatility. Now, the question will be, would that just be a quick run up, or has it got the possibility of continuation? I encourage you all, join Nick's area. That's Furby trades in here, but Nick does a phenomenal job in here. Phenomenal job in here. And then take the time also to work your way over to the calculated and smart leverage with MQT. Phenomenal job in here as well. They both have full-time jobs and do all of their things, so obviously, don't be rude, take it with a grain of salt. But even when you look at the USDT dominance, breaking down how it looks like a rising wedge from the way he had that set up. So a rising wedge here would play in perfectly to what we thought with USDT dominance. And that could play us down, and it should, if it would have broke down. Now, If it doesn't break down, obviously we have the optic up here. I wanted it to not only come into that liquidity zone, but break through it to the bottom and hit this uptrend. It did not do that. We have a little volatility that way, but the daily, the smaller time frames could possibly be breaking down a little bit. And it's not going to be a huge breakdown, but what it could do is it could support a little bit of movement. But right now it's dicey because it's got a nice inverse head, inverse shoulder, inverse right shoulder. If it wants to play out, so we need to dump down. And what that does in the stables is a lot of the money gets tied up in the stable coins for the crypto traders because they find it more sound and they don't want to risk actually investing in something. So we got to pay attention to that as well. I agree, Nick. MQ does phenomenal work. You both do. You both have added such a unification. It's such a unique experience in the Telegram, even beyond myself. I know I talk and I put stuff in my section when needed and things like that, but I find more interest in looking at what some of you guys do because it gives me an expansive look at even what I'm thinking. It's something different. It's the first time that I've had this Telegram exactly the way I want, and it took me 5 years almost, 4.5 years, and I even stopped it. You guys can go back in the past conversation. I don't delete it. Knick Knack Patty Whack, welcome in. Let's see. Frankie Fresh, good morning to you and Janine. I hope you both are having a blessed Saturday as we don't forget thanks to give, or don't forget to give thanks to your Lord and Savior Yahweh and Yeshua. And I know some people have said the praise of God, so you become present in this. Even if you don't believe in the higher power, you need to have faith in something greater than yourself, even if it's not in prayer. So whether that's, there's faith that there's something greater than just you and I, that ends up, evolving. It evolves. Then you end up with compassion, integrity, and love. I think that's the cornerstone to a lot of success. But Janine, I hope you're blessed as well this morning. And Frankie, I'm so appreciative of having you guys in Tom's Army. GA Stormfield, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army 3+ months with the XRP Meteor along with Totally Awesome. Two Ravens, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XRP 589 Moon Badge. 1970 legend, our fellow Buckeye. Just a little south of me in Michigan. He's in Ohio. Thanks for being a very trusted mod and also for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year. So generous. One day, it'd be nice to just meet up with some of you guys. You're definitely one of them. And be an exciting time. Dan Marginal, thanks for being in Tom's Army 3+ months. I think that's everybody. Did I miss anybody? Two Ravens for over 2 years with the 589 Moon Badge. Mark Casting, Crazy Poll. Michael, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Alpha, thanks for the $9.99 super chat. I greatly appreciate that. It says, we appreciate you, Tom. I appreciate all of you as well. I do. I appreciate everybody in here. As we're up to 96 people now. It's amazing how people just come in here as the live grows, and it's really it's a cool feeling. Even when there's only a few people to start, and then as people come in, they stick around, and more people find their way in, and we start to exchange knowledge. I really like it. It's a domino effect of knowledge. Tanya, welcome in, love, one of our most popular members of all times. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 3 years with the XRP Diamond Hand Badge. What an incredible, incredible accomplishment and a show of support. Thank you so much for that, love. I wonder what happened to Miss Vicky, if she's still doing good out there. Miss Vicky, if you're watching this, we know you were going through a rough time and you've been working a heck of a lot. But we hope and pray that you're doing well out there. We really do. Let's see. Maple Man, thanks for being in Tom's Army 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. Crypto Plumber 420, thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XRP Predictor. Frankie Fresh, as everyone is getting frustrated with crypto because it's been doing the opposite of what really makes sense. Yes and no, Frankie Fresh, but if it didn't make sense, would we have known that we topped back in January? Or that we were topping in January? Like, it makes sense what we did. What wouldn't have made sense is just to blow off the top and keep going. Because then you would have put an end to the whole cycle. Right now what we've done is we've done the 50 to 75% retracement. And we're within that retracement. And it actually, unfortunately for the amateur, it doesn't make sense. But for the veteran, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. That's why the veteran person is buying the drops after 50, 75% in some of these tokens, especially on the October 10th drop. While the rookies are buying the overhyped, overinflated, and people would get mad at me in January, February, March, April, May, June, July when I was saying XRP is overvalued. Not where it's going long term, but within the structural flip, we were just overvalued. Not just XRP, but all of crypto. And now we're in that point where we may not be overvalued depending on where you bought it. And there's been a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of eyes on different things. XDC still struggling after a little bit of a push up here. Hasn't been able to right the ship. If this does not right the ship and we can't get past 494, the obvious is we're back testing on all of these. We had a nice breakout, but the honest to God truth is we're back testing every single one of these. Like, we're back testing this entire possible breakout movement. And yes, does it get frustrating? It depends how you look at it. So the obvious here would be for XDC, if it can't get through this very small resistance I put here up at 5.07, it's coming right back down in a quick fashion to 451. So if you're not in it, you start looking at 451 or the eventual push all the way through to 39. You know, and if that doesn't hold, then all of a sudden you start talking about, but that's a widening base. We were unable to get through this top heavy resistance, which was always a problem. That's why I put it like that. Because that was a liquidity trap. Either people were going to buy it up and use it as a new level of expansion, or they were going to look at it as distribution and sell it off into the, you know, the Johnny come latelys and then just rebuy it when it came back to the bottom of the structure on, you know, confirmation. And it's a very dicey and tricky and all encompassing bunch of debilitating and deflating things that happen versus XRP. XDC looks like it's a little overhyped in the 4-hourly. Daily's oversold, but in the weekly we've been talking about overbought. So one of two things are happening here. One, XRP is about to break out very nicely versus XDC. Two, XDC is about to fall a lot faster than XRP. And we'll know once this breaks down. And this could be leading to the breakdown where we come in bottom test. And if we do this, this will be an all-time retest. We've never come back down after the all-time push on this pairing. So, I mean, if we come back down, I mean, you could see some kind of big drop. So it could be the fact that XRP is getting ready for a volatile spike. And like what what Furby Trades Nick is seeing, what he shared in the Telegram and in here in the live, is that we could be bottoming for XRP and we don't go down to that next level, which would be the CME at $1.997, which, again, it would make sense to avoid going down there and strangely come up to this liquidity, because why? You don't necessarily need to come down to the $1.997 yet if we are, in fact, bottoming for a second. I don't like the 4-hourly right now. We got to reverse this, which we're trying, but you know, and then when you come down and retest the rising or the breakdown of the falling wedge, then you by virtue come through the $1.997 because that's down at $1.80 at minimum. So it's not necessary to 100% come there. Like, this was my expectation. We would come through here, back test, and then we would bounce back out very volatilely. Now this third time, I don't know if we'll do that or if this will end up just breaking through. This is speculation and conjecture at its finest, if we're going to build a head and shoulders. But there's no way of really knowing. And then I talked about coming all the way back down. And the reason why this area makes sense to me is that could be a third tap down here. A fourth tap now. But if we came down there, it could make sense to come all the way through. But you have that falling wedge that you could come through first, you know, and back test. And then make a case. Make a case we don't have to do all of this. So I'm trying to draw this out in a way that makes sense for me if we're going to hold. Right now, however, we have the bearish bias where we have to make sure that we can hold this area and actually reverse out of here. Because if we don't, the next lingering one is the CME gap. It's at $1.99 and it's lingering. Do I necessarily think we're going to come down there and hold it? Probably not. If we come down there, we'll probably come down to the falling wedge. Hey, buddy. You want me to get out of the living room? You need to go out of the living room? You need help? What do you need? Want me to help you? You just want to sit out here now? That's fine, guys. I'm going to move into the other room for my son. That's fine. I can move into the other room, buddy. Yeah, I can move into the other room. No big deal. You deserve your weekend. Yeah, I know. I know. Mama, I'm going to move into the other room. Just to finish this so T can kind of have his way. I'm going to shut the front door, though. Hold on, Titi. Holy moly, did she leave a mess. Mess. Oh, crap. Hold on, Titi. Yeah, hold on, buddy. There's lots of stuff in here from sister. She left lots of stuff. Yeah, Daddy's almost done. Hi. He just didn't want me in the living room. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. So, Michaela. So Michaela just left. As I was doing this live to head back out to Kalamazoo, because she's in the honors program out at Western Michigan, and she was home for the winter break and whatnot, semester change, and now she had to go back out there today for Monday. So I can sit back in here now so my son doesn't get bothered, so we won't be interrupted. It's just a little bit messier than when I was in here before. Anyhow, let's let me open this back up so I can see what everybody's saying. Where the heck is it at? I have no idea where I put my other tablet, ironically, so I can see comments. Hold on one sec. I apologize. I know some of you are going to be leaving. I really do apologize. This is perfect. For some of you who are new and don't know, my son's autistic and he's nonverbal, so and he's very sensitive to noise. So sometimes he can't handle it, so I gotta move. Let's see. Frankie, what a good dad you are. Tommy Gunn, I appreciate it. Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. Has anybody looked at XRP on a daily time frame as a full wick off distribution? Since the breakout in December, we've looked at it as a full wick off. Kevin, I mean, we've looked at it in many different ways, and that's why we're trying to figure out if in fact this is bottoming in the short term, even though we've got some signals here that we have to correct. But that's why in theory have it drawn out like this, because with the way it came through now, the one thing that makes you a little nervous is that created a bear flag. And the obvious thing is with the way this came down, you know, it is almost tailor-made. So we just have to make sure that in fact isn't a bear flag, because if this gets rejected here, look where this brings you into. It brings you into that falling wedge area perfectly. I mean, like, you can't make that up. So we have to invalidate that structure. Now, for every reaction that doesn't, or for every action that doesn't happen, there's an opposite reaction. And that's how you would get this movement volatilely back up into that area. But we've got to make sure that that bear flag isn't in fact forming in real time. And we're going to know a lot by the end of the weekend. You know, we're going to know a lot of it by the end of the weekend, but that is an excellent question. Who asked that? Kevin XRP, excellent question. Absolutely. So then if this doesn't happen, then it becomes, okay, well, this ends up being a bear flag. And unfortunately, it ends up being like this and the movement contracts. I mean, it is what it is. The movement would contract and then we'd end up getting such a volatile breakdown here, which would not be fun. But then you would end up looking something like this, back up to a nice volatile retest. And then all of a sudden, it gets dicey because then you come through. What the hell is TradingView doing? Again, you guys are going to hate TradingView with this update, so just get used to it. And then the first area it's pretty obvious. You come down into here. And then I think you could make a decision on whether or not you'd be bearish or bullish. But if you come down this way, then all of a sudden some of our bullishness ends up coming after we backtest the falling wedge. But now does that only get you back up to this part? And then if so, then it's going to give us the aggressive nature to now all of a sudden come down into this area. Which if you look at this and you start playing it out, if it's something like this, then could we get some kind of volatile big-ass W that forms out of this or some big wave reversal? Because, I mean, I could technically say, like, okay, well, we're down, up, down, up, down. So would it be A, B, C back out? Like, would this just be some kind of weird ABC correction, overextended? Who the hell knows? Because you had such a volatile swing up. Who knows? You know, so that's the basic thing here. Like, are we doing that? Like, did we just come all the way back up to come down and try to form something like this? And if we did, this is pretty dangerous. As you can see, because this could turn into a three-wave correction even. Depending on how you look at it. So, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. And I'm not saying it would have to come to all the way down to here. I'm just saying that would be something that we would start to look at as this unfolds. And it's not out of the realm of possibility. So it's an expanding ending diagonal. So have over 10,000 coins for most. Meta Shackle, it's an expanding ending diagonal. Okay, so you're looking at it. If you're looking at the expanding diagonal, you'd be looking at it from this perspective, not this one. Which one was it? I know I had one of them set up like that to emphasize that, unless I put it back into the wedge for this live, which I might have. It's an expanding ending diagonal. Interesting. Elaborate a little bit, Meta. I like that. Elaborate a little bit. So what's your bottoming price then? Because overall, we can still call it for what it is. You still have this broadening area out here where we've already hit the resistance up over the top. And the best way to emphasize that would be the one where it came into the $1.57 area. It still looks like, if we look at the entirety of this, it still could be a bullish megaphone. We've never given that up, but I keep cautioning the audience, if this is a megaphone and we didn't come all the way up, and we still have to come to support before that 286, I mean, you're talking about some kind of movement like this. But there's so many things that have to play out. Like, we still have the ability to get out of this, but we're in a very dangerous spot. We need to push up now, and we're trying. We're trying to invalidate that 4-hour reversal candle. And I think these are great discussions to have. I wish more people were interested in this instead of the XRP community just wanting to be fluffed out. I wish the XRP community cared more about this stuff. That's our biggest fault, is we would rather be fluffed than get understanding. And I'm not talking about the ones who are in here. I'm talking about from a universal standpoint. unfortunately, a lot of the XRP community would rather just be lied to and feel like that it's all easy. And that's kind of sucks, actually. Because when you're more informed, nobody can lie to you about pattern movement. Like, that's the thing. Nobody can lie to you about pattern movement, and then you can have a real understanding of what are the possibilities here if we break out bullish, if we continue bearish. What is the objective here? Well, the objective is, if we can get back out of this, we will still continue to look at this kind of a structure setting up. We will still continue and continue and continue to look at these possibilities. It is what it is. But we don't know. We have to wait to see which. So when somebody comes on and says, I can guarantee this is going to happen, or I can guarantee, they better be damn sure, because it's very hard to guarantee something. So you got to be damn sure. So this is the possibility. Either we're breaking out here and we're going to come up to do something like that. And then in time, you would have to be like, oh, well, you come from there, and then you would probably, that would be, it is what it is. And then you have to kind of, anticipate what could happen. Now, would this come back down and create a head if that happened? Or would we continue up into a nice bullish spike, and then you could back test and finish out the moves up? So that's where we don't know. This is what we don't know. This is the unknown right now for XRP. But if we continue to dissect it, continue to break it down from a smaller level, well, now you can see in real time, are we officially contracting, or can we do something more special? And if we're going to do something special, we're going to have to kind of come along this like we've talked about. We need to start expanding out here, invalidate that 4-hour breakdown candle, not get rejected in this area and do something like this. Because we don't want to do something like that. Because then you could see us going into a 3-wave corrective back down. What year do you think we will actually see $5 and up for XRP? If this played out during the election season like it's supposed to this year for midterms, I would expect to see those numbers at some point this year, not 2027. For me, I think 2027 could be a very bearish year if it played out properly. Like, a lot of people are expecting the big appreciation to come after. Well, with the election cycle, it could go the complete opposite way, remember. So I expect us to get some upward volatility because of the midterms this year. Because, a lot of people propagate their own wins and losses, basically the possibility of that being Democratic or Republican based on the market. So it'd be a good time to sneak up a run in 26, and then in 27, let it all come back down and crashing. If very well, Kevin, if you start all the way back, that's the importance of this, because that absolutely is a possibility. And that's why if it gets past a certain level, everybody's going to have to make a decision on what they want to do. Because it is not impossible. Because if you look at it from a daily structural standpoint, you've got over here, you've got a top. And now if we can't come out over, there's probably going to have to be another tap somewhere, unless it just continues straight down. But I do have written out here where, in the worst case scenario, and I know it pisses people off, in the worst case scenario, we come all the way back down here, and this shows 45. But there's a lot of scenarios where we come back down here, and I've talked about these lower levels, and it's not as far-fetched as a lot of people think. If we come back, I even have the scenario where XRP would come back down and fill a gap that has been here for all time. So, just start looking at this from the very bottom like that. And then you start looking at this and you go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe we do come back and back test the all-time pattern. And, it's something I've put out here before, and I'll continue to talk about it if we break down. That's how you get down into some of this trash. Nobody wants to get through this, because we've never back tested this amazing breakout. If you go down, this can change too, because we've done it. We have the other look at it to where you have the all-time breakout. I understand that. But there's so much stuff to look at this. And I like looking at these broken up into many different fragments, because the chart is it differentiates so much. I don't know what all this crap is on here. but it differentiates. It's so different from different time frame. It's just so different. It's why I have so many different charts. Because you got to understand, like, this is the micro movement right now, but it can all lead to that macro view, that macro breakdown. And for Bitcoin, one of the biggest problems is the technical target out of that rising wedge that we broke down out of, which I think that's a rising wedge. Yeah, uptrending resistance, or you have contracting, but you also have an uptrending supply. That doesn't seem like a rising triangle. That seems more like a rising wedge. And yeah, we haven't back tested. It could bring us to 103, but we failed so far to break out of this section. Now, if it's meant to break down, I mean, it comes all the way to 72 and possibly all the way down to 50. We never back tested the breakout of the cup and handle, and that's gone unnoticed by a lot of the populace covering, cryptos. Not by us, but we never back tested, and it actually came up and filled my technical target for Bitcoin in the bull season. If it hits 50 cents, though, yeah. If XRP hits 50 cents, that's going to be back into reaccumulation, and it's just going to be that much more fun, I think. But yeah, that would definitely, Ed, would be a far future reset. Meta says, if it is an expanding ending diagonal, then it should push to the lower trend line in a three-wave ABC type move. Ending diagonal are 3, 3, 3, 3. Yeah, see, so that's why I drew this out. If that's the case and we have to go into a three-wave, that's why I said ABC. If we're doing that, then it starts to play something like this. And this becomes very dangerous. You start to boom. And you could say $1.97 first and a back test. But I'm just trying to show the veracity of an A, B, C. Like A, B. So that's three waves down. That could get you all the way down to that $1.59 to $1.62 area very quickly. And then if that gets a rejection here and you can't break back above and then you end up below here, let's say and get a rejection. Well, now maybe it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all the way through. So maybe it could be deeper, but the 3, 3, 3 I do like. I do like that line of thinking. Meta. The 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. I like that. Because that's an ABC style movement at the end. I agree. That's why this is so important. If you get a rejection here, that's why I keep saying this is not the time to buy. This is the time to decide what there's so many decisions. But yeah, that's how important we're at right now. I think you have it charted just right there. The good thing is that an ending diagonal is the highest probability reversal in the Elliott wave. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, there is hope that it could stay around that $1.59. But the problem is like I showed, if it goes through and we do continue with the 3-3 structure, the ABC, I mean, it's a problem. It is a big problem. That's why this is a big moment for XRP. If we don't want to do that three-wave movement right now, we've got to invalidate it before it is validated. That's why I wish more people were as excited about this kind of stuff instead of just, we got to see the price action go straight up or straight down or the technicals don't matter. The people who say the technicals don't matter really, 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 really miss out on a really unique learning tool. And you can use it in all markets. It's a good target to have. But that's why I say these areas are not the buying areas. If anything, like I said back in, and I hate to always point to this, but it's true. This is why I did what I did in crypto at the time. And then I just kind of ride these little short swings until it gives me confirmation. I didn't want to sell out of crypto. But, 75% of my crypto. And then we had to turn focus to gold, silver, and mining stocks because we kept covering this and we kept finding trades and things like that. But it's certainly not a smart decision to start buying into those sections. And, that I was getting 3, 4, 5,000 views on my lives at that time and people got pissed. But I was the only one who was willing to come on here and tell the truth at the time and tell people, you take your profit And you can always buy back in sub $2. You can buy back in sub $1 when we work our way down, if that's how it has to be. But the point is you could have sold and bought it for 60% cheaper and had the same amount of tokens, or bought there's just a lot of things that happened at the top. And that's what I'm starting to see. And I know I'm sound like a broken record. I'm starting to see it with silver and gold. You're starting to see the Johnny come latelys come out of the woodwork, which is why I'm fearful of buying mining stocks around this section. And we've had them for a while, but I would like to go deeper, but I have to wait for like a 30% pullback to start employing that capital and that plan, or 40. It's just because it happens. It doesn't matter what asset it is. It doesn't matter how bullish it is. It doesn't matter how much of a supply shock it feels like. The technicals and the way that the Elliott wave and the way that expansion and contraction and viability and the stealing money from people through call and puts is the same, even when you're talking about paper metals. So you always have this fundamental assault. That's why the capital requirements continue to go up. It's up to like 43% for call options. It used to be like 9%. There's a reason for this. This is how you shake out some of the longer holders. And then you end up crashing the market, and then it goes up much higher than it was, but all of those people lose their entry in the paper market. So that's I'm getting that same feeling. I'm also getting a little bit of a feeling that we could surprise and jump up real quick to 94K with Bitcoin, just because there's a liquidity trap there again. But then when you go lower, there's a bunch of liquidity traps lower. So it doesn't need to do that. There's also a case to be made. Bitcoin could go to 86. XRP touches $1.99.7. Then we go back up to 94, and XRP retests that 218 to 24 zone and gets the ultimate rejection. There's also that if we want to be rejected and do something like that. So it's not cut and dry. But the worst case scenario for quick drop downs is that we lose this particular setup, which you can see we're perfectly at support, and we end up playing something like this to the downside instead of to the up. You play an ABC down here, I can almost guarantee you this is going to end up very badly. And that would mean we're already A wave down. So could we technically say an A wave down? And then whoops, let me delete this real quick. Let's get rid of this real quick. So could we technically say an A wave down? Maybe we come back up and you could get a rejection somewhere up in here. You could. You could. Or you could just say it's a quick rejection. You know, either way, I don't really care how we say it. But the bottom line, because right now it would be like this. It would have been up, contract, and back through. I don't know if it'll come that far the first time. I would suspect you might do something maybe like this initially. Although, it would have to be a pretty far drop for this last one to come all the way down there. So I don't mind it, you know, being something more like this and then having some kind of I don't mind that at all, because at some point it would back test that $1.99.7 as a resistance. Let's see. 33 is how old Jesus was when yeah, I mean, can't really fight that. But and then some people ask, like with the Fibonacci and all this stuff, you know, the Fibonacci outside of even technicals is a universal signal, a universal number. The Fibonacci code repeats itself. It never changes. So just look at it deeper than just technical analysis. The Fibonacci sequence, it's a perpetual confirmation. And no matter where you're at in the universe, no matter where you're at in the world, no matter where you're at with intelligence, it's just a universal code. Which is why it's fascinating how good it works in numbers. I don't put the Fibonacci up here because I like to do it by freehand, but I definitely know where all the numbers are, and we talk about it, and they end up being your support, resistance, your contraction, expansion points. But I think we've done everything we can do this morning. I really, really am watching the possibility of a bottoming here as well. So we talked about it at the start. Now, if you're looking for that, it's very simple. If it gets below $2.06, we're going to $1.99.7. No reason to even look past there. $2.06 is lost. It's over. Simple. You don't even have to think twice. And I only say that because you see the support structure here. I'm giving it a little bit of grace here because it's technically at 207.7 at real time. I'm giving it grace to $2.06 Because then in that theory, if we can stay above here, get back above 212, we can get back on top of the golden cross area. We've actually, and I know it's a lagging indicator, but we've had the 100 cross the 200. So we've gotten our ultimate confirmation here. Now we just need to get back on top and make a new high. If you make a new high over 241, it invalidates the head and shoulder thesis, and then you can bring it up to that 264. So, and then maybe even expand out higher to that 294 area. But this is what we have to do. You don't do this and we get a rejection, all of a sudden you fall into scramble mode. Kind of like if you watched the college football playoff yesterday. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Well, Oregon had a plan until the first pass of the game when they threw a pick six. Then it was scramble mode. If XRP starts out here, they have a plan, but we get a rejection and throw a pick six out the gate. Then we go into this further corrective, and then everybody's got a plan until it starts dropping, right? They have the plan of the rise, but what about the fall? So let's see if XRP gets punched in the face here like Oregon did last night, and you're scrambling, and you keep having it up in the perpetual swing because now you're volatile. You don't want to be in that volatile mindset. That's why you can't be an emotional trader. So let's see if XRP can avoid being punched in the face here and have that further correction. No, I understand if I post the wick off. You are right about that. No, you're not scaring anybody. We've talked about this. That's why in this moment we're talking about a real defined motion. And this is why not a lot of people are watching me as of late, because I've been more bearish than bullish. Yes, for about a 3-day period, I came on very bullish because of that push up. But after the push up and we got rejected, it's back to the same thing. Nobody wants to see it, but it's there. Nobody wants to acknowledge it, but it's very real. And how often do you have a volatile swing up without a volatile retracement? How often do we have a big movement like on October 10th and not dump out the wick of exhaustion? That's the problem here. So that's what we need to do. Why are us insane people saying under $1? Because it's within the range of possibility if we end up contracting down. And the first sign that we're going in that direction is that we've actually started an A wave and we're just rejecting the A wave, and now we're starting a fresh B wave down. That is the problem in an ABC move down. And then if it fails to break out, then you have another corrective phase back down, and then it could signal the end. We've been talking about this. Just remember what me and MQ have been talking about, and Nick. You know, Scotty Trades and Nick. Remember what we're talking. It can happen. Oh, I'm not this on the ball about full liquidation for no reason if this fails. Or why I have liquidity instead of putting it all in. There's a reason why. Furby Trades has it at 60 cents, see? We're just trying to share the possibility. So if we end up taking this road, and that's why I have it drawn out right now. That's why we made it very clear. If that's a bear flag, if this is a correction on a B and C, so basically you would look at this, and here, this will make it easier. Instead of just having me draw it out my own way, let's put the ABC on there, just so people can be like, hey, at least he's got it down there, and it shows ABC on the screen, and now we know what he's talking about. So like if that was, let me go boom, let me go boom. Actually, it would have to start out with the down up, but whatever. You guys get the picture. Because technically, oh man. And then B down. Oh, I don't want it to look like a 0 up there, actually. You can start 0, and then it would be the A. And the B. I hate how it does the 0. I don't want the 0, but you guys get what I'm saying. I don't need to draw it out there. But yeah. Nick says, that being said, there's Ethereum levels from years ago that never hit that are sub. Oh, absolutely. Oh my God. If you want to talk about Ethereum, where we haven't gone back to? Oh, we can have a lot of fun with Ethereum. It's one of our big problems. Big problems. I wonder if I kept it on here. Remember when I was, oh yeah, $496. That was the level for me that I was scaring our audience with. Remember when I would talk about the big breakdown of this being one big break, just a bearish consolidation? And then we go into, because of regulations, my whole gut feeling was with regulations and stuff, we'd go into a crypto winter, and everybody thinks regulations are good, but I've always said they're bad. So in time, I mean, this brings you so freaking far down that it's a disgusting, disgusting journey. But I don't believe regulations are good. I'm here to tell you that it's going to kill crypto. And I've been saying it for years. Because I know if I was an institution and I had to trade in a regulated market, I would go to the one that's already been regulated and not the one that's in the midst of all the turmoil. That's just me being honest. I wouldn't trade crypto. I would trade into the already regulated market. And with all these expansions of ET, I've already told you guys my philosophy. If I was trading Ethereum, I would trade Tom Lee's company, Bitmine, as it's the number one holder of Ethereum in the world. And when Ethereum had that 12% push up, Bitmine went up 30. If I was trading Bitcoin, I would go into one of these companies. I would go to one of these companies. Actually, it's lower than this out of here. It's actually like 307, if you want me to be honest with you guys. But I don't like to often show you honesty that much because then people leave. So yeah, Nick, it makes sense down to 307 or 300 area you're talking about. So what ends up happening is everybody's convinced that regulations is good for crypto. It's not. It's not. It's the worst thing that we could have ever heard, and it's the single reason why I started to become very bearish in this time frame, besides the fact that we're overexhausted. But I understand too that even with exhaustion comes these weird times of volatility. So you have to break down the levels first. So for me to start worrying about Ethereum, we break this down. It's not very hard. Once Ethereum breaks down like the 3,000 wall, 3,050, and XRP breaks down that wall, there's no reason to have this overholding. And I'm not going to tell everybody what I'm doing in it. If I want to liquidate, I'm going to liquidate, and I'm just going to say I have a bunch of capital on the sideline because I don't want everybody doing exactly what I do. I want you to follow my lead, but you got to make the decision. I'm not a financial advisor. So, you know, if I'm liquid or if I'm in a position, it shouldn't matter to you. You have to base it on your own fundamental understanding. Absolutely. You're right about that, Meta. And crypto is supposed to be an unregulated market, not regulated. That's what I'm hopeful for, MQ, Furby Trades. I mean, Nick. What I'm hopeful for is we do get that parabolic spike. As we get that, because there's always going to be that exit pump. Now, the question I've asked myself is the exit pump coming from, you know, like XRP being at 50 cents, 40 cents, and then the big pump is just to get it up to a couple dollars. You know, is that going to be the big pump? Or is that 10x pump that comes next from 50 cents to $5 or to fill that out, but you never get the 10x from here to make that $10 to $20 run? You know, that's the question. That's my question I've been asking for a long time. Now, I'm not just convinced we're in an ABC down. I see them playing on emotion and a lot of times they cut these off at the hip. So the best case scenario here is that this is a liquidity trap. We haven't finished the upward exhaustion yet, and we can still come up to those higher levels in the short term without validating the move down. But be very cautious because we're one step away, literally one rejection here from validating a move down of another 10 to 15% without even blinking. Like it'll drop 10% like you can't even believe. All of a sudden you're at 209 and now you're at $1.80 kind of thing. Tom, if XRP was to go to 50 cents again, would you sell it before it goes down to that point or holding on? No, I would sell it. The rest of what I have. I've already sold 10,000 tokens. Well, 15,000. The 5,000 I bought, $5,000 worth at 38 cents, as you know. I didn't want to sell the 34 cent area unless it forced me because I already sold, you know, a lot of money worth to fix my house up and things like that of my crypto back in January. And then with XRP, you had to wait until some in June and March when they had the rotation back. But we could be in an extended flat, but that would, if that's the case, Nick, We legitimately cannot lose that $2 area anymore. Like that would mean the CME gap would be your just that universal. Now, could you wick down to $1.80? I think it'd be very unlikely in this scenario. But we're basically basing that on the fact that if we're in an extended flat, I mean, you're not looking to go much lower here at all. You're looking to maintain this area as a new breakout area. And now all of a sudden, Bitcoin is going to honor this 88 to 90K and XRP is going to honor that $1.99. I mean, it can't lose the $2 if that's the case. If it does, it's going to have to be one of those huge quick wicks down from a psychological standpoint and come right back up. Otherwise, we're finding ourselves in the down spurs. I always tell people it's easier to find people to sell than find people to buy. So there's a lot of people to look, there's a lot of ways to look at this. But that doesn't mean I wouldn't swing trade back and forth in XRP if I felt like there was a moment coming. But you know, there's also the point of contention. Like you have to know your own plan. You have to know your own psychology. It's an expanded flat or running flat top. And Meta, the way you describe it too, if it's an expanding flat, or well, I mean, if it's a flat top, I mean, we might as well just mail it in right now, because then we can't get over that layer, and it's never going to happen. If it's a flat bottom, well, I mean, it's expanding too, like you said. So I mean, that also brings in its own interest. Fuck this. Absolutely. It's not too bad for swing trading. In fact, how many times have I opened up different positions with XRP outside of what I hold for that quick swing, and it's made a couple $1,000s in a very quick amount of time. And then, but you have to be on the ball and just be gone. It would have been like opening it at $1.81 on this past time and then selling it, you know, at 240-ish. Hey, look at that. My January 6th TA in 60 seconds. Not even joking. Just alerted me on Julie's tablet. It's good. 4 days ago. It's good that that's finally getting out there 4 days later by YouTube. But anyhow, I guess I'm going to go. It's been an hour and 12 minutes. It's Saturday and I want to go see how my son's doing. I would like to come back maybe in a few hours and have the vertical live and be able to talk this out a little bit more. So if anybody's interested, Meta and some of you others, Frankie Fresh, and it's all an illusion, and all everybody else in here, Nick and Scotty and Defined and everybody else who's in here. If you're interested, Crypto Plumber, and if you guys are interested, you know, we can talk outside of the charts, and we can do this one, you know, on the vertical setting, and we can talk from a standpoint of not in the charts, but just on a personal level. And it's been doing pretty good, honestly. Yesterday, it got about 1,000 views. So it's awesome. I may not chat. No, you don't even have to chat. You guys can just listen too. If we get one more like, we end with over 100 for this live, and it would be great. Tom, Indiana prediction. Probably going to win the national championship. As much as I like Miami and Mario Cristobal, their team's not good enough. They make too many mistakes. And the SEC's, like I said from the beginning of the year, super overrated. So it's, you know, Miami could make mistakes against the SEC and still kick the crap out of them because they're overrated. That's why Ole Miss lost. Too many mistakes. The Ole Miss looks good. The Ole Miss and SEC, the only reason those teams were looking good is they played each other and they all are overrated. Take the overrated hype and rate them the way they were supposed to be, you might have got 2 teams in the playoff, maybe 3 at most. They were very overrated. That's why when they played each other, they looked good. But when the SEC played somebody else, they got smoked. You know, I know they didn't technically get smoked, Ole Miss, but they should have won that game. But they had too many mistakes. Miami's not that good of a team. Everybody's acting like they're the best thing since sliced bread. They're not. They're good, but other teams' mistakes have allowed them to win against Ole Miss, Ohio State's mistakes. And then going further back into the first round as well, there was mistake. If they make those mistakes against Indiana, they're going to lose by 30. Indiana against Oregon on the first play, pick six. We talked about how that domino effect. So, but like sports and stuff, I don't pay attention to them as much because I know that it's just a trap, a psychological trap, just like politics. It's just a way to pit people against each other. So unless XRP punches me in the face and proves this is not overtly bearish, I have to go from the bearish standpoint until it proves otherwise. Right now, it's proved to me that we might have already completed the A wave down, and we're just looking for the rejection to go down to B. That's all. And then in an ABC correction, we drop out 30% or so. No, not 30. We drop out by the end of it. Yeah, maybe so. Easily. Indiana had trouble with that post Penn State Franklin team, needed a miracle catch to win. It happens. That's what gave them their defined focus for the rest of the season. They got too big headed. And that was the one time during the season Kurt Cignetti didn't have the team focused properly. They thought new coach, Penn State's on the rails, and they misjudged them. They misplayed them. That happens everywhere. If you want to talk about that, don't bring up Miami in the national championship. They lost to two very superior teams that, let's face it, that Indiana would have beat by 50. And then they've struggled in all three. They won all three of the playoff games, but it's been a nail biter the entire time. Besides Ohio State, they kicked the shit out of, just from a physical standpoint. But yeah,